Ever run into a situation where the game just won't let you put a pylon on the ground? Can't figure out why your forest pylon suddenly stopped working? And what is the best way to arrange your NPCs so they are happy and that your pylons will work? Stick around, and this episode will cover all that and more. Hey there, my name is Salendrak and welcome back to another episode of my Terraria version 1.4 Journey's End Beginner's Guide series. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about pylons, how to get them, how to keep them functional, and a good way to organize your NPCs into the various Pylon Villages in Pre-Hardmode. I'll also do a quick update on NPC happiness, because although I already covered this topic in a prior guide, Relogic subsequently tweaked things a bit, and so it's time to set things straight. If you like this type of content or find it helpful, informative, or at the very least somewhat entertaining, please help me out by smashing that like button and remember to subscribe so you'll be notified of future entries on the channel. Also, I am now doing live streams on both YouTube and Twitch. Check my community page, link up in the corner, to see what my schedule is and what I'm streaming. Currently doing Don't Starve Hamlet, Terraria Drunk World Master Mode, and Valheim, and whatever else strikes my fancy. Now let's get to it. Before we get to pylons, I want to quickly go over what's new in the world of NPC happiness since my prior guide on the subject. I won't get too deep into the weeds, but compared to the numbers I provided in the prior guide, the bonus you get for privacy has been cut in half, and the benefits you get for liked and loved neighbors has been increased, but only slightly. You can still get most pylons by simply placing the arms dealer and the nurse together, with the exception being the snow pylon, as the disliked and hated penalties have also been increased a little bit, and the arms dealer doesn't like the snow. That's really all I'm going to say about the changes, but later I'll give you an NPC and pylon arrangement that will keep your most important and expensive NPCs happy and your pylons fully functional. So with that out of the way, let's talk about what pylons are and how exactly they work. Pylons are colored crystals that, when placed, allow you to instantaneously warp to other pylons, so long as the functionality of the origin and destination pylons are satisfied. There are a total of 9 pylons that can be acquired in any given world, 2 of which can only be purchased in hard mode, namely the hollow pylon, which requires that your world has the hard mode hollow biome present, and the universal pylon, which requires full completion of your bestiary. The 7 pylons which you can get in pre-hard mode are for the following biomes: forest, snow, desert, cavern, ocean, jungle, and glowing mushroom. As I explained in the prior happiness guide, vendor NPCs will sell pylons when they are happy enough to discount their goods by at least 15% or down to 85% of MSRP. Because of this, the highest price you can ever buy a pylon is 8 gold and 50 silver, and due to the updated happiness factors, the lowest you'll typically see is just under 8 gold. Whenever an NPC is in that happiness range, they will sell the pylons for whatever biomes are currently active based on where you, the player, are standing. And although it is sometimes possible for a happy vendor to sell more than one pylon at a time, such as the hallowed pylon and a desert pylon when in a hollowed desert, for purposes of this guide, we'll just be sticking with the pure biomes. So, how do you know if you're in the right biome to purchase a given pylon? Well, for the most part it is pretty straightforward, and your best clue for what biome you're in is the background artwork if no walls are present and the music that is playing. The forest pylon will be available when no other biome type is present and you are at least at the surface level of elevation or higher. Similarly, purchasing a cavern pylon requires that no other biome be present and you're in the cavern layer of elevation or even the underworld. If you have a depth meter or other accessory that includes the depth meter as an ingredient, the game will tell you what level of elevation you're in. Otherwise, you can generally tell based on the background art when no background walls are present. Surface level shows sky and distant hills and mountains, underground shows a dirt-looking brown background, and cavern has a stone-looking gray background. You can also tell the difference between underground and cavern by the type of predominant blocks present. Underground is primarily dirt, while cavern is primarily stone. And finally, you can tell the difference between surface, underground, and cavern using your map. As with the background art, your map shows clear skies for surface, brown color for underground, and a gray color for the cavern elevation. The rest of the biomes are really straightforward and as far as I know don't care about elevation. Just have enough of the relevant blocks present and the biome music playing and your happy vendors will sell the pylon in question. And here's a quick table showing the biome requirements if you want to make artificial biomes, and feel free to pause if you need to take notes. Once you've purchased a pylon, the happiness of your NPCs is no longer relevant to being able to place or to use the pylon. Instead, there are only two major requirements you need to remain mindful of in order for a pylon to actually work. Note that the universal pylon is an exception to both of these rules. First, a pylon will only function when it is in the biome of its type, and except for the forest biome, hybrid biomes are, as far as I know, perfectly fine. But if you put a forest pylon in any other type of biome or hybrid biome or below the surface of elevation, it will not function and you'll get an error message of this pylon is not in the correct biome to use. So for the forest pylon, keep it in a pure forest with nice scenery in the background. The other pylons are not restrictive, and even whether or not you can buy a pylon does not determine whether or not it will necessarily function. For example, although you normally cannot buy a cavern pylon if any other biome is present, such as jungle, snow, or hollow, once purchased, a placed cavern pylon will still work in a hybrid biome so long as it is in the cavern layer. Here's an example. Here we have a happy wizard in a cavern level hollow desert selling both the hollow and desert pylons, and yet all three applicable pylons will function here: cavern, desert, and hollow. The second requirement for a pylon to function is that there must be at least 2 living NPCs housed within a pretty large rectangular area centered on the pylon. The specific dimensions are 169 blocks wide by 124 blocks tall. Stated differently, if you're standing on the pylon itself, all NPC housing flags need to be within about a screen and a half to the sides as well as above or below. Those are the main requirements for ensuring that a pylon functions, but here are a few more little tidbits. Only a single pylon of each type can be physically placed in the world, even though you can purchase as many of each pylon as you like. If you try to place a pylon that already has a match placed in the world, the game simply won't let you put it down and it will be red on your cursor. Pylons are all deactivated anytime a boss or invasion event is active. This does not include slime rains, blood moons, or solar eclipses, and as of the 1.4.1 patch, does not include the lunar events triggered after killing the lunatic cultists. And finally, it's a good idea to keep at least 3 NPCs housed near each pylon, and pets are a good way to bolster your numbers if needed. That way, if for any reason you need to relocate a single NPC temporarily, such as moving the Dryad or Steampunker to change what items they sell, the pylon they were previously housed at will still have enough NPCs to function, allowing you to warp back and rehouse the previously moved NPC back to their normal home without having to run all the way back yourself. Additionally, having at least 3 NPCs, pets included, will cause the area to be a town, which will decrease monster spawn rates, increase critter spawn rates, and cause different music to play. And that's pretty much it for pylon mechanics. Before we wrap things up for today though, here's a quick rundown of good NPC pylon arrangements to work towards in pre-hard mode. This organization method is designed to keep what I feel are the most important NPCs at maximum happiness, while generally keeping the other useful NPCs decently happy. The less important NPCs that you just don't use that much are just there to bolster numbers for pylons to function, and or to boost the happiness of an NPC that we do actually care about for one reason or another. At the forest pylon, which I like to put in the center of the world at my main home base, I like to keep the Zoologist and Golfer as close neighbors and the Guide down alone. Both of these vendors will be happy enough to sell the forest pylon and will give you a fair bonus on goods sold to them. And I like to have the Guide near my crafting area for the crafting recipe knowledge he provides. If you prefer, you could also house the merchant with the nurse or the arms dealer with the nurse. It all kind of depends on which type of vendor you like to have nearby, though the nurse can be good to keep nearby for quick healing during events and boss fights in a nearby fighting arena. For the Cavern Pylon, my standard setup is to pair the Demolitionist with the Tavernkeep and the Goblin Tinkerer with the Mechanic. Put a third room on one side though, as you can add the Die Trader with the Mechanic and Tinkerer to max out the Goblin's happiness if you have some reforging to do. You can also mix things up and make a threesome of the Demolitionist, Tavernkeep, and Mechanic to max out the Demolitionist if you have a bunch of bombs you need to buy to make a elevator or other explosive projects. It honestly doesn't make a big difference though, but every little bit helps. At the Ocean Pylon, I like to put the Angler with the Party Girl. Before you get the Party Girl, you could also put the Demolitionist there if you want to make the Angler as happy as possible, but in order to get the Pylon purchased, you'll likely want to temporarily put the Nurse and Arms Dealer there, buy the Pylon, and then reassign as needed. Although he isn't a vendor, I focus on the Angler's happiness here, as he does give you a boost to fishing quest rewards if he's happy, and maybe add a pet to get it to 3 NPCs. There are a couple of options for the Desert Pylon. The Nurse and Arms Dealer go well housed together with the Die Trader off to the side. If your Nurse is in the forest with the Merchant, then just the Arms Dealer with the Die Trader works, adding a pet for the 3rd NPC. Next we have the Jungle, where a natural trio is the Dryad and Witchdoctor as roommates with the Painter nearby. If you're short on cash and are going to buy a ton of paint, reassign so that the Painter is roommates with the Dryad for a nice little discount. The only pre-Hardmode NPC that likes the snow biome is the Mechanic, but she's more useful placed with the Goblin Tinkerer in the Caverns to make the Tinkerer as happy as possible. Thus, I generally stick the Clothier and the Stylist in the Tundra, or any other NPCs that aren't needed elsewhere. You'll need to use a different set of NPCs to get the Pylon purchased, and options that'll work are the Painter and the Dryad, or the Golfer with the Angler, or the Mechanic with the Goblin Tinkerer. You can't use the Arms Dealer and the Nurse here because the Arms Dealer doesn't like the snow. The last pre-Hardmode Pylon you can acquire is the Mushroom Pylon, which isn't a bad idea to get set up before starting hard mode. That said, there aren't any NPCs that like it there except for the hard mode Truffle, so for now just plop anyone there, maybe with a pet, to at least make it function. And there you have it, a decent arrangement of all your pre-hard mode NPCs and a functioning network of 7 pylons, allowing you to quickly warp around your world with ease. If you want to review all the loves, likes, dislikes, and hates of the NPCs, as well as how to acquire them, there's a link to the wiki page down in the description, which is a great reference source. And never fear, I'll provide an update that includes the additional hard mode NPCs and the Hollow Pylon once we've made a little more progress in the game. Well, hopefully by now you have a solid understanding of the intricacies of NPC happiness and Pylon operations, and hopefully Relogic doesn't tweak things further and make this video outdated anytime soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!